Good afternoon, and welcome to another special episode of Expansion of Consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock. And I tell you what, over the past month and last several weeks, we've had a number of interesting guests and people who bring different perspectives on consciousness, people who are speaking about how to use different modalities to increase your awareness, to increase your mindset, and even to be in touch with your spirit guides, to be in touch with Source Himself. But tonight, we're going to spend some time a little bit talking about astrology, talking about our relationship with Mother Earth consciousness. I'd like to introduce to you Indra Rinzler. Mr. Rinzler's stories and experiences will delight all audiences. The wisdom he shares will open the audience to learning about themselves, their life's journey, and relationship with Gaia Earth. There are a variety of subjects that he can share, so a conversation may quickly cover a lot of subjects. People find Indra's a soothing energy to be with and can inspire all audiences with his aura. For 50 years, Indra has been involved in spirituality and Vedic astrology. He has been studying and sharing Enneagram and Personality since 1999. He uses these modalities and life readings designed to help clients wake up to who they really are. Indra is an enthusiastic, genuinely interesting man who has been a world traveler for over 20 years, offering services and classes in the USA and Asia. His stories and experiences would delight all audiences. And without any further ado, we're going to bring on Indra right now. Hey there, Indra. How you doing?
I'm good, Jason. Thanks so much for having me today. I look forward to talking with you,
A great
sharing with you.
conversation. Yes, a great conversation we'll have. We're going to talk about Mother Gaia, astrology, spiritual life, things that people can do to find happiness, simple things, but understanding that all of these things are right at our fingertips because they're right inside of us. And I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Yeah, they're already here. It's nothing we have to bring. There's nothing to get. We don't have to learn anything. It's just mostly about getting this stuff out of the way that's inhibiting our ability to be able to live in the joy that's already here. I like to say the solution is waiting for the problem, and the peace and joy and the love and harmony are already there. It's just we block them coming by the stories that we believe, by the thoughts we have, by the sometimes actions we take, and that's a spiritual path. That's being alive.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah, that's it. There's nothing else. I mean, that is it.
So, Indra, everyone has a story. Everyone has a background on what started them. What is your personal spiritual healing journey, and how are you able to lead to study and to share astrology and Enneagram of Personality? How are you? What prompted all of this?
Well, I mean, what prompted it, I can't say. What happened in the body was I was mathematical as a child, and I can't say that I did great at school. I mean, I did really good, but I didn't really. I wasn't on the same wavelength, really, and as I became into my early 20s and started, I had the situation that my parents had both died of natural causes. My mother died within a week and a half of graduating college, and my father died 2 years later, and I was not 25 and set into the world free. And so the thought came, well, I needed to start doing something. And then the thought came, well, the better path would be to get happy. to find yourself. We use different words in the 70s, but it was to work on the direct of getting happy, and then figuring out what I want to do from there. So the spirituality started in my I don't know, 25, 24,
Mhm.
25. And by at the time we started going to metaphysical bookstores. It was a new phenomena.
Yes.
Actually, the late 60s, early 70s, when the first uh, the expansion of it, anyways. Maybe there were a couple before, but not very many. But this whole phenomenon, we could go into go over to Berkeley and California, and go to these stores, and you could buy all these books on all of these ancient teachings, and it was revolutionary. It was a revolution inside yourself. And so that's what I started doing, was reading and studying, and one thing led to another. I lived in an ashram for 20 years, raised my kids in this ashram spiritual community, and then left that behind. Started traveling the world. I was a world traveler. I only spent one winter in the U.S. since '98,
Oh, wow.
plus the COVID years. I got back 2 days before everything closed down, March 15th, 2020, and haven't been on a plane since. But up until then, from '98 to 2020, I'd only been in the country one winter, and I had been to 56 countries. I was a trader. I imported handcrafted items to sell to stores, wholesale to stores, for 12 years, and was able to travel everywhere, and was looking for third world cultures that made cheap handcrafted items: India, Nepal, Thailand, Bali, Vietnam, Guatemala, Turkey. Just had an incredible life for a bunch of years traveling, and then settled down to met my wife in India, and then we settled down to go to India every winter for, I don't know, eight more years or something, a long time, until,
Yeah.
haven't been able to go back. But so I've had, but the thing is that the astrology, from the beginning, the astrology was something that is a particular interest to me. And I want to share the story. My story is that I studied it really intensely for 3 or 4 years in the early 70s. And about 1975, 76, I kind of hit a wall, and I didn't really know what to do with it. Um, I wanted to make it, quote unquote, mine,
Hmm.
but I wasn't really mature enough to be able to know what that was,
Right.
how to do it. And so I dropped the astrology story for 20 plus years, had family, lived in an ashram, had a guru. And then as I'm leaving that, it comes back and knocks at the door, that I have this feeling that what they call the midlife crisis, the 40s, when you make the changes, that I think a lot of people get back to their 20s, that they go back to things that they left when they went on the tangent of, not the tangent, but the whether it was the household or family life, or the corporate job, or whatever it was. You kind of, when you have that midlife, you kind of get back to your 20s. And so I kind of got back to astrology, and met the Enneagram of Personality at that particular time. And it was a tremendous catalyst for me. And I met a teacher who taught me how the two modalities work together. And it still was 10 years before it really now was time that all this stuff had matured enough that I had my own ideas, which weren't really my ideas, but that had been given to me by the by the teachers, by the gurus, by the masters. And they were the intuition to say, well, what about this? And so I spent many years trying to not really buying. It was easy for me not to buy into what everybody said about those modalities. That was easy, and that I had to get quiet in order to be able to hear my own voice, my own inner voice that goes back to this mathematical kid who wanted to know how the world worked and wanted to understand people and help people and ultimately to help people and came up with these modalities that are, I call it, the approach is science and intuition, that you get the you get you it places you in your life, that the astrology places you through the planetary energies and the houses that they're in. You get an understanding of yourself, and through the Enneagram you get your through the astrology you get your strengths and weaknesses, and through the Enneagram you get your core triggers. You understand your personality, group personalities, that your personality is one of 9, and that it's not a box, it's not the box you in, but it's to give you the box you're in order to be able to get free of it. And so by helping people to place themselves in this life, especially people who don't really understand themselves very well, they don't understand who they are, they don't understand what they believe, they merge with their conditioning is an issue, and so they get confused. Is that what I feel, or is that what my family feels and I should feel? And so people spend 20, 30, 40, 50 years figuring this out. And so these modalities are really helpful for those people. And I'm giving them information, and the process is all theirs. It's nothing that I'm doing.
So the Enneagram, what is the Enneagram of personality?
So
And
the
I know you're speaking on it a little bit, but how can it help people in their personal growth?
So the Enneagram of Personality is a teaching that's about 60 years old. The Enneagram is a little over 100 years old. We have no idea where it came from. A teacher brought it and never said whether he made it up or he got it. It was a particular mysterious teacher, Gurdjieff, if you're familiar with him. Some listeners may be, but he's not high on the radar now. But there are people that will hear his name and smile. Then 60 years later, somebody decided to put it's a combination of 3 geometric shapes that have an attunement, a sacred geometry with each other, and that they create 9 points. And you can put anything at those 9 points. And then a teacher, separate from Gurdjieff, put personalities at that points, and it became that it's the 9 personality types. That it's not just a typing system, but it is the 9 personality types that particularly relate to the Judeo-Christian tradition, the ideas of the cardinal sins, lust and gluttony, and gluttony's the 7, and lust is the 8, and these got framed. And the thing is that everybody has one of them at their core, and it's their lens that they navigate life. It's on the low side, it's the stories, the triggering stories, and the insecurities, and the places you're vulnerable. And on the high side, it's our skills and our gifts that we give to other people. And by understanding which story is at our core, the lens that we use for this particular life, it helps us to objectify the behavior in order to be able to release it.
That's real interesting. And, in other words, a map to understanding the type of personality you have.
Absolutely, it's a map. And like astrology, it's a map or a guide or a tool. I mean, I can't distinguish between map and tool. To me, it's the same. It's the same word.
So you've gone on this spiritual journey, and you've lived in the US and India, but I'm in particular because we know India is a high vibratory country, high frequency, high vibration. What was it like to go on a spiritual journey in India?
Well, the spiritual journey in India starts when you get to the airport before you've flown anywhere, and we used to call it an e-ticket. That was when Disneyland opened. They had an e-ticket. That was the you only had a few of them. They were the most special ride, and India makes no sense from here, and the West makes no sense there, and it's a timeless. Integrated, chaotic, uh, spiritually ripe
Yeah.
environment that I mean, ultimately, what is consciousness?
Yes.
What is love? What is India? It's like, I don't know. It's like it's it's incongruous. It's the greatest, highest divine experiences and the most garbage anywhere. It's chaos. It teaches you. So what happens is it breaks down all of your defenses and your understandings and your emotions and everything, and it just counterintuitively, it just gets you every moment of every day that that you're people don't, you in your mind you're going, people don't live that way. Well, they do here. We don't do that. Yeah, we do. And it breaks you loose. And my experience of going there the first time in 1986 was that it was a remembrance, not a it wasn't like it was new. It was new to Indra, but it wasn't a new experience, and it was a remembrance. And I'm not the mystical one that has all these shamanic trips or anything, but it was just this feeling of, I remember living this way. I remember this consciousness. I remember being here. Uh, it it didn't seem new.
Mm, wow. And I rack my brains at times just trying to understand just the entire spirituality, the metaphysical world, and how all of it comes together. And you just mentioned consciousness. What is consciousness? Where is our consciousness coming from? Is it beamed in? Are we thinking to ourselves? And I tell people, our consciousness is not local. Is our consciousness is beamed in. It's Christ consciousness. And but it's interesting to grasp the understanding of the spiritual nature of things. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it's the thing is, you can't understand it with the mind, and you can't grasp it. That's the thing about it, is that it vibrates. I was just reading about this yesterday.
Mhm.
Perfect, lead in. I told my wife, but I didn't tell you. But somehow you've come to the same. You brought the same moment. But the thing is that it vibrates at a level is that you can't see it, and you can intuitively feel it, but you can't fast food it. You can't. It's not tangible like the physical plane life is. The whole thing about it is that it vibrates at a different level, and it's the consciousness is actually the medium. It's not actually, I mean, maybe it's a state. I'm not saying that I can say this 100%, because it's a little bit bigger than me, but it's the medium. It's consciousness is it's it's like film in a movie.
Mm. It's
And
something that's there, that's being used as a medium to transplant thoughts and information to.
yeah, it's like soil for a plant.
Yes.
It's the medium it grows in, and so this spirituality, this higher vibration, grows in consciousness, and there it is understood, and there it can exist, but it's not something that's visible. And
Right.
so it um, it befuddles the mind, because it's not of the mind, and and
Exactly.
and it's nowhere you have to go to get to, because it's already here. And like I said before, you got to get your blocks out of the way, and then you'll see that it's already there. I like to say we're already enlightened. It's just we got to get the percentage a little higher.
Exactly. Let's take a look at this right quick. What do we know in this life? How can we find answers? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Indra's website. It talks about astrology. Uh, it talks about the will of totality. I'll let you go into, your own masterpiece, but tell us about your website and tell us about all the wonderful things that you offer people.
Well, as I say, what came to me was that and these were bits and pieces. It's like the 1,000-word puzzle, and it's like you don't get all the puzzles at the same time, and they're initiations. I don't know if you ever use the word initiations, but it's initiation that had a teacher that used the phrase dharma doors. That's a Buddhist term, that you get to a plateau, and then you go through the door, and then more insight comes. And so I feel in the last years, in the last 5 years in particular, it feels like when new insights come, that it's like I'm ready for them now. It's not so much earning. That's a human, idea. It's not so much earning, but it's like you get it because you're ready for it, because you sort of graduated to be able to understand it. I had a teacher that, it's like we can't really understand uh, uh, these highest level teachings until we're ready. And so
Yeah,
I
that's
use
true.
these modalities. I call them science and intuition, the Enneagram of Personality to know your core triggers, the Vedic astrology to give you your strengths and your weaknesses. I was given this totality, the wheel of totality. I've given this modality, the wheel of totality, which gives us our blind spots or places of ignorance.
Hmm.
And it's a map of consciousness it's the empty houses in astrology that we mostly don't talk about. When you get a reading from a teacher, you're going to get they're going to, not a teacher, from an astrologer, they're going to tell you about the houses where you have planets, but the empty ones also contain awareness, and they're your blind spots that we don't normally start working on until we're 50
Yes.
or
Yes.
into the 50s, because your deficiencies are not something you work on in your 20s and 30s. You build up your ego in order to feel secure, and you build up an identity, but your deficiencies are not really, you don't really start looking at those really deeply until your 40s. And so these, where you have empty houses, the awarenesses where you have empty houses, we don't start working on those blind spots until close to 50. And so it's a tool to let people know what it is that they don't have, what they don't get.
Right. Okay. In the yugas, what is the yugas? Placing ourselves in a longer humanity cycle.
So the yugas is an Indian term. It's the cycle of ages, and the Greeks added the golden age, the silver age, the bronze age, and the iron age. In India, they're called yugas, and there's 4 of them. And there's, of course, complete disagreement about how long they last. There's general agreement on what they mean and what they're like, but there's complete disagreement about how long they last. And most of India believes that we're still in Kali Yuga, which is the densest age. And it's maybe a term that you and maybe some of the listeners have heard. Kali Yuga, it's a term. But I had a teacher that believes that we're in Dwapara Yuga, the second age up, not the second highest, but the second from the bottom, that we've left Kali Yuga. And what everybody talks about, the chaos we have now, is not Kali Yuga, but it's the death dance of Kali Yuga. I call it the dinosaur dance. The death of the dinosaur. That the Kali Yuga is the densest age, and so new ways are coming. We wouldn't have had this conversation 60 years ago.
Mm.
Certainly not in a podcast.
Right.
So this
Exactly.
is so this is this is the nature of the changing age. And where the Dwapara Yuga, he says, is a 2,000-year cycle, of which we're only 120 years into it, and I Facebook a post one time of a woman sticking her belly out, which you can't see, saying I'm 5 months pregnant. I mean, 5 weeks pregnant, with all this joy. And it's like, if you take the 120 years and you put it into 2000 years, it's like 2 weeks. And it's
Right.
like, we don't even know we're pregnant yet. And so everybody's saying, well, why, we're still in Kali Yuga. It's still chaotic. It's like, we don't even know we're pregnant yet, So like, it's just give it some time. But the growth we've had in the last 100 years, the mind body connection, the internet, the universal health care. I mean, Henry VIII didn't do universal health care, and that's a different age. And so when I look at it that way, that was one of the last important pieces, was to put it together, because the things that are, the way that I offer these modalities is totally a Dwapara Yuga way, that it has that I'm not interested at all in the Kali Yuga way of doing astrology or the Enneagram, which would be, the Enneagram would be you're stuck, that that you have this personality and you're stuck in your life. That's not really the way we think about it in Dwapara Yuga. In astrology, a lot of astrology people get stuck into thinking that the Pluto this and Jupiter that and Saturn this, and oh my God, and it's a bad time, and da, da, da. I don't do any of that. I don't believe any of it. And I see people putting themselves through incredible torment over something that doesn't have to be.
Right.
And so I don't know. I took you through the yugas. If I'm not, if you have other questions, I don't know if I've explained it well or not.
Oh,
But the
absolutely.
idea is,
It's something that's different. I mean, especially when you talk about, let's say the Para Yuga, the Bronze Age, and what's so interesting about it, it talks about technological progress, conquest of space, electricity known, and it's creating principles, and that directly is reflective of this time period we're living in right now. And then I look at the Satya Yuga, where we're living at 100% of our potential. It's absolutely amazing that we have access to this type of knowledge. We don't know, like you said, we don't know where this knowledge came from, but maybe it was downloaded, or someone had was able to pick it up in a channeling session. But this is absolutely astonishing information.
well, I mean, ultimately, to me, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. The fact is that I believe it at the moment, and until I
Right.
get something that's better, this is what I believe. But the thing is that rather than take this whole stand of being, I'm stuck in this life and I don't know my way out, or even if you start on the spiritual path and it's like I'm gonna get there, well, it's a new game. It's like, it's what do they call that, somebody's playing checkers and somebody's playing
Playing
chess. It's a
chess.
totally, new game. Is that it's a different age, and all of those rules that you're so uptight about don't even actually apply anymore.
Well, I want to do a quick reset. If you're just starting listening to us, you're listening to the expansion of consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and we have Indra Rinzler here with us, astrologer, coach, spiritual teacher, and just a lot of fascinating things that Indra brings to the table and he talks about. But one of the things I want people to go to www.indrarinzler.com, www.indrarinzler.com, and understand what he does and how it may be able to benefit you. And I know people are saying, some of the stuff he's talking about, wow, is out there, but what they can relate to is astrology. Let's dive deep in astrology and talk about how people can use astrology. And I know you talked about the wheel, but let's go a little bit, maybe surface to let the audience know the benefits of using astrology.
Okay. Well, as I say, it's about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. It's not about one of the first things I ever read in astrology almost 100 years ago, was the stars incline, they don't compel. And
Yeah.
so by understanding the the areas that we're impelled into, that we still have free will about, but that
Hmm.
there are ways, the way I use it is that a planet has a high side and a low side, and it's not good or bad. We can say high side and low side. We can say strong and weak. So a strong planet means that you can access the energy of that planet easily, and a weak planet means that it's hard for you to access its energy. And so what happens is that's where your compulsions and your obsessions come from. So on the weak side of Mercury, it's hard for you to communicate. On the weak side of Mars, it's hard for you to get in gear and do the things that you want to do. On the weak side, the low side of Venus, you compare yourself to other people and you get judgmental and critical. And so I non-judgmentally share with people this reality. I don't even want to say it's their reality, but the reality of what I can see in the chart. And the idea of it is to help people to be more objective about their situation, because it's neither good nor bad. There's a reason, karmically, one would assume, if one believes in karma, there's a reason why we have these circumstances, that certain things are hard and certain things are easy for us. And so there's no right or wrong or good or bad in any of it. But the idea is that the knowledge is wisdom. And so by understanding, by getting us insight, I call it getting out of the movie of your life into the audience. By looking at your own life with some objectivity, you get an opportunity to be more disconnected, dispassionate to your own story, and then you can start to laugh and see your own story in a way that you can get some distance from it. And so maybe you're going to ask me this, maybe you're not, so let me just share it with you. But at the end of a reading, people say, well, this is great information. Now, what do I do with it? Maybe this is your question, Jason. So people say, well, now what do I do with it? And so I came up with what appeared to me was this idea of the 4 doorways to conscious living. And so the
Oh
first
my
doorway
God.
is
I was about to ask you about consciousness, and go ahead. You know what? There's a deep connection here, because that is amazing. But go ahead, Indra.
okay. So the first doorway is you have to learn to observe. And that means you need to
Mm,
watch your own behavior. You need to watch your own thinking. You need to watch your behavior and your thinking to other people's behavior and thinking. And you need to get out. You need to get some non-attachment to what's happening in order to get out of it, in order to have some objectivity. Okay, you learn to observe. And then the second doorway is then you let go and release what doesn't serve you. Okay, so now I'm going to read you a quote here. Letting go involves being aware of a feeling, letting it come up, staying with it, and letting it run its course without wanting to make it different or do anything about it.
mm,
It means simply to let the feeling be there and to focus on letting out the energy behind it. When letting go, ignore all thoughts.
mm.
And so this is from a book called Letting Go by a man that I really respect a lot, that I've been sitting with a lot the last couple of years, the COVID years here, is David Hawkins. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
I have
he's
heard of David. Yes.
yeah. So this is a quote from him. And so the second doorway is to letting go and releasing what doesn't serve you, and understand that ice cream may serve you right now. Being not meditating may serve you right now. Being abusive may serve you right now. But when it doesn't serve you, and then let it go. You know. You know kick it out. And so then the third doorway is then you love yourself. And the fourth is to live in the moment. So if you live in the moment, then you love yourself. And how do I love myself? Well, you let go and release what doesn't serve you. and so we spend a lot of time there. And then how do we know what to let go and release? Well, we learn to observe. We just learn to watch ourselves, and it's a self-realization process. It's nothing that we need from the outside. Sure, stimulus and mirroring back in our relationships, and success and failure, they all help they all teach us, and that's why they're there. Not to torment us, but to teach us. And so I call that the four doorways to conscious living.
And people ask me often, how do I get to be more conscious? How do I raise my level of consciousness? And you just gave it to them. 4 ways to raise to live in a conscious way. And when you begin to elevate your consciousness, exactly what you're talking about, your awareness of exactly who you are in your place in this cosmic maze just starts to become clear to you. And I always think about raising my level of consciousness by even talking to different guests, reading books, imagining that I am made of energy. That alone helps you raise your level of consciousness. And it's just so interesting. I practice QHHT, which is quantum healing hypnosis. And when I'm with the client and I have them in the trance state, and once I am able to move them to different past lives, it's an incredible experience for the client to hear it and to see it on video. But when I bring forth the subconscious mind and it starts to speak about the client and the situations that they're dealing with and how to fix it and bring forth healing, the level of consciousness that comes from those type of conversations is absolutely mind-blowing. And we talked about living here in this third dimensional construct, in this physical world, but understanding that dimensions past this third and fourth dimension, they're not solid, they're non-physical. And just to understand that and accept that, your consciousness is raised even more than you would ever think of.
Absolutely, yes. And there's you don't need a manual. That the beauty of it is, the amazing thing about it is that it's its own manual. That by getting there, then you will know, you will recognize it, and you will know what to do with it and how to be with it. And it's that old thing that if I go into the void, then there'll be nothing there.
I
But
got
when
one
there's
for you.
nothing,
Go ahead. I'm
but
sorry.
but
Go ahead.
but when you get to that void, you find out that not is nothing there, everything is there. And
I'm gonna throw. I'm
so,
gonna throw one. I'm gonna throw a big one on you. Tell
okay.
me what's going on in the world today. Explain it for us, Indra.
Well, I mean, I can explain it by saying that there's I don't know that there's a understanding of it. It's just light and dark, just an evolution, just living. It's if you're talking, are you talking political, are you talking, I mean, the thing is that I get on, I've been on quite a few podcasts, and I hear this, and especially sometimes when I listen to the guests, getting ready for yours, and people will, for getting on a podcast, I listen to people's podcasts to get into the vibe of it, the feeling of it. And people saying, wow, it's now the 2.5 years and it's really cooking now, and it's like, I'm here to tell you, it's been cooking for 50 years. I mean,
Yeah,
the late 60s were pretty dynamic and pretty raw. And I don't, I'm of the mind that it didn't start there. I go back to the 1840s and 50s when Madame Blavatsky first went to India and brought astrology back to the West. This whole astrology thing started because of her. That it was not that kind of astrology was not practiced here very much. She brought it back from India, from she started the Theosophical Society in 1875, and we come along, and admittedly people are young, and it's new and it's exciting, and they think, wow, you go back 6 years, it's like, whoa, it's really changed. But I mean, it's been going on 50 plus years that I know of.
When I look at this world and I try to piece together where's it headed, where we're going, and I see a number of humans who are raising their level of consciousness, who are vibrating, trying to help move this construct, this the third dimensional construct into 5D, into 5 dimension. Now, some say we're already living in 5D, but I know that when you're in different dimensions outside of third, things are non-material, so that's kind of hard for me to grasp right there. But trying to move the consciousness of the planet, and I read your bio, and you talked about the relationship with Mother Gaia, Mother Earth, in other words, and it reminds me of my spiritual teacher, and she would channel during our sessions, and she would channel Mother Earth consciousness, and when she would go into these different gyrations with her body, and then she would start to speak while we were on our Zoom call, to hear the feelings of Gaia, Mother Earth consciousness, to hear the feelings on how they view what's happening on the earth, how they view animals eating each other. We never created this planet for that. We didn't create the planet for you to eat the animals, nor the animals to kill themselves. We created a fertile place to grow food and to eat. And it saddens Mother Gaia and Mother Earth consciousness, the way this world and the way this planet has developed. And you wonder why we have these natural eradications of civilizations, floods, and then that civilization is gone. And then there's another 3,500 years, and then we get another civilization. Is it possible that Mother Gaia cleanses the earth after so many thousands of years, something like a cycle? And we see this with different civilizations coming and going. What's your take on that?
Well, my take is that it's not my particular focus.
Sure.
What I've been taught in my Indian teachings is that admittedly, this is not a high place. That this is not a high planet. I mean, the
Oh,
planet
no.
is beautiful, but it's not. We're not sent here because because we're sent here to learn. And the thing
A tough
about
training ground, a very tough
yeah,
training ground, Earth is.
and the thing is that we need that. And so going back to, I'm not going to go far into it, but the idea of Kali Yuga and the density. So what's the value of density? And so I make up this story. I tell people, and I say, let's say that you're sitting with God and you're getting ready for your next life, and he says that last life you need to learn something, so now you're going to be, this is going to happen. And it's like, well, I don't get it. Why? What do you mean I was jealous? What are you talking about? I'm just a astral being just having a good time. What are you talking about? Well, when you get into the body, and your ex-partner is walking away holding the hand of your best friend, you get a feel of that you don't get any other way. And I'm of the mind to believe that because I've experienced it, is that sometimes that's the only way we learn. And so I don't see it as good or bad. I just see it as a training ground, that it has its purpose, and that will and I remember I was in Asia when the North Korea stuff with the bombing was going on. They were going to
Hmm.
bomb, and I was pretty close.
Hmm.
And I got to the place pretty quickly with, if they're going to blow up the world, let them blow up the world. I don't
Yes.
want to lose peace over it. You know,
Yes.
I don't want to buy into it. And if it happens, it happens. Is it good or bad? I don't know. It's above my pay grade. I don't really care. But it's the thing is that so I'm not personally much into these stories. I keep it pretty simple. That by growing myself, I can touch anybody that I touch is helped, and it's not me. It's not me doing it. It's not my energy. It's not my wisdom. It's not, maybe
Right.
it's my experiences. No, it's the body's experiences. It's not my experiences either. And so
I like to
I'm
say I like to say we're all I like to say source is experiencing you, myself, and every being in every dimension experiencing everything that they have from a different perspective. You and I are talking, but we're the same. Sources is having a different experience with you and with me at the same time. And how amazing is that? But what I'm going to do, we're about to run out of time. I want to give you the
okay.
floor. Is there anything that you'd like to add or leave the audience with? I want to also say one more time, www.indrarinzler.com, www.indrarinzler.com. Find this gentleman, very, very knowledgeable about astrology, the relationship that you can build, and the secrets of life, things that you may need that can take you to the next level. But I'm just going to let you have the floor to give maybe words of wisdom or how to contact you. And maybe you have workshops coming up, but you have the floor.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. I'm not doing workshops right now. I'm not really feeling to do that. I do the readings, and I'm in California. I do shows. I do psychic fair type shows and meet clients there. And I work on Zoom all over the world. I'm offering the readings, and the thing is that people get sent that I do, promotions. I mean, I come on the podcast, and people, one or two people may feel something, and the people get sent when they're ready, and I'm here to share with people on whatever level they're at, that when they feel, I mean, because coming into a reading, the life reading, which is the three modalities, is 3 hours, and people don't have a clue of what it's going to be. They barely have a clue at the end of it what they've been through. But the thing
Right.
is that they're taken to a higher, like you say, higher consciousness, a higher vibration, and the work is to get back there by themselves, is to
Yeah.
go through their own limitations in order to get through back there by themselves. And so I work with people, and we'll see people a few times sometimes, and I'm pretty uh, uh, I'm not for everybody.
Sure.
And I'm very happy. I'm neither happy nor unhappy in
I
that.
know what you mean. I know what you mean.
So what I do want to share with people is that I do an offer on the podcast that if anybody's interested, I will send you your Vedic astrology chart for free. I may make a couple of comments. It's not a reading, but if you want to see the chart, it's different than the Western astrology chart, and I'm not going to go into the differences. But if you're interested and you've always wanted to know your Vedic chart, well, I can send that to you. That's free. You have to send me 3 pieces of information. You email me at my email, indrarinzler@gmail.com, date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth,
Okay,
and
I'm
I
gonna
will
send
send
you.
you
I'm gonna
back.
send, and I'm gonna send you my stuff. I'll make sure I get you my.
Okay, so then I will send it back to you. And then the second free offer is if you're interested in the learning your Enneagram number, I will send you a free test. That's about 5 minutes. Or maybe 10 minutes. And some of you will be frustrated, but most of you will figure it out. And it's a place to start. If you're interested in that, that's free. And then also just write me and let me know you want that. And so I offer those to people. It's a dynamic time. It's a changing time. There's a lot of distractions out there. There's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of people that are getting to higher stages, but it's not really their finished stages. and so they may be shouting, "I'm finished," but they're not really finished, and that's part of the process. And that's a level of maturity that we all have gone through. And so the most important thing is to be able to develop your own intuition. And the only way you can do that is by quieting the mind.
Mm.
That I don't think you can have a noisy mind and follow intuition, because you can't distinguish, and the mind blocks the intuition. So you have to quiet the mind enough to be able to feel the intuition. And how do I know it's my intuition? Is that you work with it and you develop the ability to be able to distinguish. It's no easy way, and there are no mistakes, and everything is perfect, and the earth is having exactly what we need.
Yes.
Whatever that
Well,
is.
yeah. So we're out of time. I'm going to move you to the back. What an outstanding show. What an outstanding delivery of knowledge and information that helps everyone. You hang tight, Indra, and I'll be right there. I'm going to move you to the back. Don't go anywhere. Wow. And when he said that you have to be able to quieten the mind so that you can understand yourself better. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? Differentiating between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Which am I going to listen to? And it's all about meditation. It's all about building yourself to where you can meditate 5 minutes, 10 minutes, up to 20 minutes a day, so that you can sit in peace, so that you can sit in transcendence. And once you reach transcendence, there you will be able to decipher messages from the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. This helps you in your everyday life to know who exactly is talking to you. Astrology for self-awareness is what Indra offers. Understanding the spiritual life and your spiritual journey, how to find happiness, understanding the world that we live in, and every modality that the expansion of consciousness introduces to the show may not be for you. But then that one person that comes on helps you unlock the key to your life. What an outstanding show. I'm Jason Medlock. I'm your host of Expansion of Consciousness. We'll see you the next time. We love you.